This really means a lot to me, sir.
And me as well, bro.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So
I'm waiting on the
I
notification.
ain't know, just trying to.
Here we go. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a great guest, one who I'm very honored and humbled would take time out of your busy schedule to give us some information as well as some inspiration. My sister Miriam sends the greetings as well, Bro Dirickson.
Yes, please return the greetings to my
And
sister.
and thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. Okay, Bro Dirickson, you've known us our entire life and watched
Yes,
us grow
sir.
up, but now
Yes,
we
sir.
have the honor of hearing your story and your life's journey. When was the first time you heard the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, sir?
Well, first off, let me start with saying, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is truly and indeed the exalted Christ,
Yes, sir.
and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is their Messiah and our Messiah and the Jesus today in our midst.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me on your program. And yes, I think I've known you all of your life.
Yes, sir.
And I'm still being amazed at the things that you're continuing to do.
Okay.
And I'm so proud of you. And just to see that, because I remember you, your sister, and my daughter,
yes, sir.
all came up together in Muhammad's University of Islam in
Yes,
DC.
sir. Yes, sir.
And to see you all now, it's indeed brings joy to my heart.
Praise be to Allah. Okay, excellent. And brother Kevin Jacobs says assalamu alaikum as well. Okay, yes, sir. Well, brother Secretary, when did you first hear the teachings of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Okay. I first heard the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in 1990. It was the minister was coming. He came to Washington D.C. In 1990, and as a matter of fact, he was doing 2 nights in D.C. at D.C. Convention Center.
Yes, sir.
And it was my first time ever, going to hear him, as well as this time around, I was not only going to hear him, but I was going to get to see him. And there was a brother Amos X at the time. I was going home from work. I was on 8th Street Northeast, and he stopped me. I was at a traffic light. He stopped me to sell me the paper. And so I purchased the paper, but then he said that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will be at DC Convention Center. I think it was Thursday night and Friday night, and I could pick my choice as to which night I wanted to come. So I said, well, I better do Thursday. I think it was Thursday. And I said, I better do Thursday. So I purchased the paper and I purchased my ticket. And it was like 2 weeks off for that to happen. And I was like, okay, I got to get ready for this. This is major.
Yes, sir.
I mean, back then, if any event was going on at DC Convention Center, I mean, that was real big. And to hear that he was coming to DC Convention Center 2 nights in a row, I was like, okay, I better get my ticket now. I better get the first night because I don't know what may happen the second night and whatnot. So I did. I purchased my ticket. I went to hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But in order for me to get ready, I really didn't know what to expect. And so my thought process at that time is that this is probably some nationalist kind of event. It's probably going to be Afrocentric. And as you know me, just as most everybody does, I I love to put my suits and stuff on. And
Yes, sir.
so I had to have an outfit made to go to hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so I had an African outfit made. I designed it and then had it made.
Okay.
And so I showed up that night. I'm walking up the street that night, and it was, I mean, when I got up to the convention center, it was probably thousands of people outside. And I was like, okay, I knew I should have got here earlier, but I had to walk straight from work. So then finally I got in, I got a good seat. And on my way in, one of the things I noticed was all of the vendors. There was a lot of vendors out. And, with me having some street background, I mean, that was one of the things that I admired. First off, was just the entrepreneurs that were there, making a living for themselves legally. And so then I went in and I took my seat. And then when I got back up, I went to use the restroom, but I saw a booth. They had a picture booth. And one of the brothers had a backdrop of Washington, D.C. with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's picture in the back, and you could take your picture. But it was also a recruitment booth. The FOI of Washington, D.C. had this picture booth / recruitment booth. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to get my picture taken, but I don't know if I want to join.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So I went back in and I listened to the minister, and I enjoyed everything that I heard. It wasn't not one word that he spoke that I didn't hear, but I knew at that point that I would have to get the tape because I wasn't able to retain. I knew I wouldn't be able to retain everything that he said.
Yes, sir.
And I remember the title of the lecture was Guidance in the Time of Trouble. And that was 1990, and he did it back to back. So I was so impressed, and I saw the brothers. I mean, they was in ranks, and everybody was following the command of whoever was out front, and
yes, sir.
It was so organized. I was like, okay, this looks good. This looks like it fits what I'm looking for.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so at that time, I decided right then that I wanted to join. So I went back out to the booth where they were taking the pictures, and then it wasn't anybody there, but I signed anyway. I signed up that night. Then I went back in, and on my way back in, it was another brother. He was a vendor, Brother John from out of Norfolk, Virginia. And he says, take a look, soldier. It ain't gonna hurt you to take a look. So I purchased Message to the Black Man. I purchased How to Eat to Live, book 1 and 2. And then I looked around, I saw bow ties and stuff on his table. And I was like, oh, maybe I should get one, I wound up, when I left his table, I had Message to the Black Man. I had How to Eat to Live, book 1 and 2. I had The Fall of America, and I had 12 bow ties.
Yes, sir.
And so I decided that night that I was going to come back. So I started looking around that night, to find out where I could get a ticket for the next night. I was going to come back. And just so happened, I run into the same Brother Amos again. And I purchased my second ticket from the same Brother Amos. And the next night, I came back, but the next night, I wasn't in the African garb. I was in my suit. I had my bow tie on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And because in my mind, I had already joined the Nation of Islam. I was already a member. I didn't know what else I had to do, but in my mind, I was already a full member. So I'm walking up the street back to the convention center again from work, and a brother steps out of the door and he yells, "Double time, soldiers, double time." So the brothers that are in front of me and brothers that are behind me, they start running. So I start running. So I'm running with them. So then we get up into the convention center, the doors and everything. Ain't nobody take no ticket or nothing from me. And I'm like, when they gonna take my ticket? But I fall, he say, fall in. So I fall in, unbeknown as to what I'm doing, but I'm just following the instructions.
Yes, sir.
And so when I fall in, then he have us count off. Everybody, 1, 2. So I'm okay. So I'm just monitoring what everybody is doing. So I'm gonna do what everybody else do.
Yes, sir.
So I think my number was 16, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir.
I was 16. Then we counted off, it was about 39 or 40 of us that had run up the street to get in. So then they put us off, they paired us off into 2, one on the left side, one on the right side. And then we were 20, I think 20 down. So then they started demonstrating as to how somebody was gonna walk down with their hands up in the air and we was gonna do check.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, keep in mind now, I don't have a one hand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm standing in line and they coming down, but I'm turned to the side. I'm just checking with one hand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like this. So
Yes,
I'm like, okay. Then I see a brother come down the walkway, and it's he got like 7 or 8 brothers around him, and they coming down. And then when he gets down to me, he says, "Soldier, fall out." So I don't know what fall out mean.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do I fall out on the floor? What am I supposed to do here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I just back out. I back out. And then he says, what city you from? So I said, I'm from DC. Who's your captain? I said, I don't have a captain, bro. I mean, they asked to help. They asked me to help, so I'm helping. So he said, step over here. And then he tells the brother, say, get brother Tim on the phone. On the radio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So then about 5 minutes later, here this other brother comes, and he got about 15 soldiers around him. And he walks down. He said, what's your name, soldier? So I said, it's Dirk. And then he was like, then the other captain asked him, do you know this brother? And then he says, nah, I don't know him. He's not in the ranks here in DC. So then they asked me to explain what I was doing in the line checking people. I said, well, I was walking up the street. The brother said double time. Everybody started running. So I started running with them. And I'm here and I'm trying to help. And then so Brother Tim told me, soldier, just stand back here and we're gonna escort you up to your seat. And so him and the other brother was talking. Come to find out later on, after I'm in the nation, I found out that was at that time Brother Captain Hugh. And it was who is now Brother Waliallah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So and then of course I came in the ranks up under Brother Tim in DC. As a matter of fact, He was the local captain, I believe, at the time. I'm not real sure if at that time, yeah, I am almost sure. I think at that, shortly after that, I believe your father was taken up as the supreme captain in the Chicago. I'm not real clear on that, but I believe I'm almost certain of that.
Yes, sir.
Um, yeah, because he was because Sharif was the captain initially when I came in to the mosque in Washington D.C.
Mm.
But yeah, that was the first time that I ever heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and that was kind of like my induction into the Nation of Islam that particular night. And it's a night that, you know, I will never ever forget because that night became the turning point of my life. And I thank Allah and I thank all of those that were involved and all of those that pulled me out, that sat me down, escorted me up to my chair. You know, I thank Allah for every moment that I experienced coming into the Nation of Islam.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. Yes, sir. And I want to thank you on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience for your sacrifice and the sacrifice of your family. My sister Naima says, Assalamu alaikum. My sister Mimi saying it's a starter pack. Brother Michael X. Moore says, praise be to Allah, 12 bow ties. The first night you were official. Sister Juan says, ASA, my beloved and regional secretary that gave her daughter who had special needs an assignment in the mosque, which she did for many years and gave her confidence and a sense of belonging. She loves and respects him for life. Brother Sylvester says, it was a pleasure to serve in the Mid-Atlantic with Brother Secretary. And thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. Okay, yes, sir. Back to you, Brother Secretary. Mm-hmm. How did your parents feel about you accepting the teachings?
Well, my father really supported it. He supported me. My father is a Shriner in the Masonic order.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I lost my father in January of this year. But he was a staunch supporter of me joining the nation. He became I would say a guest supporter.
Yes, sir.
To the Nation of Islam. He would come to the mosque on Sundays after church, after he left church. And then, you know, after you come into the teachings and we're taught that the Masons are Muslim sons.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so we were able to, even though he's sworn to secrecy and he can't share with me, that they're taught to hide their light under a bushel basket.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Whereas though I could sit and talk with him and we could have, you know, father to son conversations. So he was good with it. My mother just didn't really understand, you know, and she, you know, didn't understand why we wouldn't celebrate Christmas no more and why I couldn't eat the stuff that I grew up on. And,
yes, sir.
And then, you know, so she didn't really take a liking to those things. But the flip side of it was that if it, since it's doing what it's doing to you, for you, then I'm in agreement with it. You know, so that's how it came about for her. I had to show what Islam was doing for me through my demonstration of life in terms of her eyesight. But now she loves the fact that I'm in. She loves the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And she loved the criterion on July 4th.
Praise be to Allah.
She sat through all of it, and then she calls me up on the phone and wants to talk about what he said. And so she's now a believer.
Praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. That's beautiful. Okay, yes, sir. My next question was, what was it like for you to meet the Most High Louis Farrakhan for the first time?
Ooh, oh, the first time. Okay, the very first time I met the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was also in 1990. Because I didn't waste any time with joining. And back then, Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad had his orientation class was 12 weeks. And that was it. 12 weeks, regardless as to what week you came in, you had 12 weeks. And we had to recite in 12 weeks. And so it was at the same time that the Muslims was putting the program to Congress. It was in 1990.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad for PG County, he was to take, he was going to unseat Steny Hoyer, the Cure, Brother George X Cure at that time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And also Brother Sean X Brakeem for DC School Board.
Yes, sir.
And so they were on their campaign. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan he came to Washington, D.C. to help them with their campaign. And all of it was going on at the same time, but in different areas of the city. So you had Brother Sean and Brother Abdul Arif was in D.C. And Brother Alim, Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad, was in Prince George's County. And so they had their routes and everything mapped out as to all of the locations that they were going to visit.
Yes, sir.
So I'm stationed at the PG County campaign office with Dr. Alim. And so I held the front door. I had the front door post. And the minister, when his limo backed up, pulled up into the parking lot. Now, mind you, it was pitch dark. It was about to pour down, and we were just waiting on it to pour down. We got umbrellas and everything out there waiting in case he needed to be sheltered with an umbrella and all of that.
Yes, sir.
And I'm on the door, and when he backs the car up, not he backed it up, but when the car backed up to the door, it's like as soon as the door opened, it was a big sunburst that just came out. And I was like, okay, wow. I mean, I'm like, this is really him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, and I was amazed just at something like that, but it was a sign for me. And so he got out the car, and I'm thinking like, okay, well, let me make sure I'm out of the way. And he says, "Assalamu alaikum, brother." I said, "Wa alaikum salam, sir." Says, "It's good to see you." And then he went on in. And that was my first encounter of actually, exchanging any words with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes,
but
sir.
that one moment right there, and for him to take time to just say something to me and somebody who has just come into the ranks, less than probably 3 weeks or a month, and for him to just acknowledge me that has been enough to sustain me for the next, that's enough to sustain me for the next 30 or more years,
Praise be to
just
the
from
Lord.
that one. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, well, speaking of sustaining you and your first interaction with the minister, how were your foot or your steps ordered as far as getting into the secretary department to become student regional secretary? How did that come about, and how long have you been serving as a student regional secretary?
Okay. As a student regional secretary, I think, like I said, I think that started in 1997.
Yes, sir.
I came in the mosque in 1990. I believe, I accepted the post of secretary, I believe it was 1991. And how that came about was I was assisting, in the department. And one of the things that I knew, because I was already working in computers at that time, and one of the things that I noticed was that everything that we were doing was all manual. And there were so many automated processes that we could implement in the department that would help us to speed things up,
Mm.
and that I wouldn't have to be there all night long trying to pull together a report, that I could be able to generate reports and do certain things and then be able to get home in a reasonable amount of time.
Yes, sir.
And so I then started to, develop little applications, little spreadsheets, little access databases,
Yes, sir.
and things like that. And then brother, I believe it was brother brother Sean took me to meet with Dr. Lean, and then shortly after that, I became the student secretary.
Mm.
And then I worked in that area for a minute, and then some other challenges came up, and I was able to handle those things as well. But I think those are the timelines that things were set for me in getting in the post.
Praise be to Allah. What advice would you give to future secretaries or future believers who want to go into the secretary department?
Well, the only advice that I could give or lend is the advice that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave me. And that is that you have to understand that as the secretary of a mosque or a study group, that you are in fact the keeper of the secrets of the believers. The word secretary, of course, the root of that word is secret,
Yes, sir.
and we are the maintainers of that data. We are the custodians of that data. We aren't the owners of the data, but we are to maintain and monitor and safeguard that data. And so one of the things that he told me early on was that as the secretary, you can look at yourself as the balance or as a scale. He gave this analogy that you have a scale and there's a pendulum that stands in the middle of that scale. And on the right side, you have the military. And on the left side, you have the ministry. He said, but you stand in the middle and don't waver to either side. He said, if you have any leaning as the pendulum, the only leaning that you should have is forward towards the believer. So that's the thing that I will offer any secretary, to hold on to, because if you have a leaning towards the minister and something should happen to the minister, then you know, there's going to be some rivalry or something made possibly between you and the captain. And then, you know, because he said that there's struggle sometimes or at times between the ministry and the military.
Yes, sir.
So we are to stay neutral and we are to lean towards the believer. You know, so and the only other thing is that you're only as good as your integrity in the Department of Secretary. And so you have to keep your integrity up. You know, you have to be someone that is trustworthy. And you can't really make it with blemishes in terms of your integrity. And so you have to always uphold that and safeguard that. But I mean, that's one of the things that he offered to me, the most vital and important thing for my continuation in this field this long. So I would offer that to everybody coming in behind me.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful, beautiful. My sister Miriam says all praises be due to Allah. And thank you all for continue to watch the People's Podcast. My next question for you, Brother Secretary, is oh no, I wanted to make a comment about that. So I'm sure your father was pleased with him being a Mason and trying to, with you know, having to keep the secrets of the nation that goes hand in hand, you know, with being trustworthy. My next question for you is, when did you go from seeing the Most Honorable Minister Farrakhan as maybe an activist or a speaker to someone who was in fact divinely guided?
Well, like I said, I mean, it was the simple things that made me to know. One of the things, even in 1990 at DC Convention Center, you know, he spoke truth to power because he came to DC to speak to DC, but he came to DC to get Marion Barry down off the cross.
You
know,
yes,
because
sir.
Marion Barry, the United States government was on him, you know, as a result of him being, you know, caught up with the scheme of things that he was involved in at that time.
Yes, sir.
But just the presence of alone of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in this city, I believe that was the main reason why the jury became hung, and that he was able to walk away from that situation. I believe that the minister took him down off the cross. And I believe that behind all of that, he was able to run and be reelected again because of the support of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, there was another incident in 1993. If y'all remember the lecture, The Wrath of God in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, well, you call on your God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm going to call on my God. And then he said, but I'm going to leave here shortly. And he said, just watch the weather.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so after watching the weather and what took place in Jackson immediately after he left Jackson, said to me that this man is divinely guided and this man is of God.
Praise be to Allah.
That was 1993. And also, yeah, those were just two of the things There was another thing that happened that I don't know. I'm sure you know of Al Malik Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's an activist here in Washington, D.C., and the minister told him at one point that that he was going to need his wheelchair, and he prayed for Brother Al Malik Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Al Malik Farrakhan was committed to a wheelchair and was paralyzed basically from the waist down. He had been beaten by prison guards while institutionalized.
Yes, sir.
And when he came out, we never thought he would walk again. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan prayed for him. And within weeks, there was a drastic change in his ability to walk.
Yes, sir.
And what the minister said was that there'll be a day that I'm going to need your wheelchair. And then the minister did a lecture at Union Temple in a wheelchair. And it was in Al Malik Farrakhan's wheelchair.
Mm.
And Al Malik was at that time on braces, I believe, where he was walking with braces. But now he walks upright without any help or assistance today.
Praise be to Allah.
And so that was another thing that said to me that this is a man of God. And I have never heard anything or believed anything that he has said has not been true. And when he says it, if we just watch, we'll see the truth. And so that's what's been, helping and guiding me through all of this. It's just listening to him and watching him.
Praise be to Allah. Minister Kadir introduced that brother to me and my brother and told his story. That was a beautiful story about the Amelie Farrakhan. So praise be to Allah. Excellent. So Tawan says, all praise be to Allah. Thank you for the love for the believers that you endured. That they put you through. We put you through. Sister Brother Tony D says, Brother Regional Secretary Dirickson gave me that same advice while acting in the position of a young secretary of our study group in Fayetteville. Brother Secretary, thank you for all your hard work and dedication and continuous efforts. Brother Cedric says, I'm making Brother Cedric. My sister Miriam says, beautiful. And Sister Juan says, Brother Al Malik is walking all over DC now without any adaptive devices. Praise be to Allah.
That's true.
The prayers of the righteous avail of much. My next question for you. First of all, I want to say this is usually we do our sponsorship, but this week I'm gathering all of the logos from all of the sponsors. Thank you all for your sponsorship. We will have a visual commercial very soon this week, inshallah. Thank you all for your patience. Cash App the People's Podcast to keep this thing going, and we will have the visual podcast this week at no later than the end of this week. Thank you all for your continual effort and keeping this going. My next question for you, Secretary, is what have you, in your time, have you ever had a what do you call it? A moment of fear or feared for your life? And if so, how have you overcome that fear?
Fear for my life. Well, I don't know if most of you know, but just last year, actually, I discovered that I had a hole in my diaphragm the size of a softball, and that my stomach rose up and lodged itself through the hole and was sitting in my chest, battling with my heart to take its position. And so I didn't have any symptoms. I never knew that that existed. Uh, didn't understand what was going on, but it just so happens that uh, there's a brother on my staff that works with me in my office, and I talked to him about it, and he was asking me, or he shared with me some of the examinations that he had. And so I started with the colonoscopy, went and got that done. And then I then later had an endoscopy done. And that's when it was found that my stomach was in my chest. And so I started to have some fear at that particular time when I first got word, because I had no knowledge of this going on and how did it happen. And so one of the things that was said was that it would either have to have been from a traumatic injury or from some sort of blunt force that hole could have been created. And so the only thing that I could think of is that at 11 years old, I fell 7.5 floors through an elevator shaft, which is the cause of me having or being without the left extremity. And I suffered, I had a fractured skull in 4 places, and my whole face collapsed, and I had reconstructive surgery done on my face and everything. And so the only thing that I could equate what was going on with me now was something that took place when I was 11 years old. And so I, at that time, I had some fear in terms of, going through this surgery and having this stuff done, and just understanding what people doing to us today, and having to be put under the knife and all of that. But again, word got to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And when I was told that, he sent me his blessings, I was ready to jump. I jumped up out the bed, and I mean, I was just elated that, he took time to offer prayer and whatnot for me. And so at that time, I mean, all of my faith and everything was restored, and I can't thank him enough, you know, um, for that. And I believe that in fact is what brought me through. And yeah, it was said that he was told that I was doing better, and that they couldn't believe that um, I had come through all of that. I had to have ribs removed and everything in order for them to go inside and pull my stomach back down through the hole and really put a mesh ceiling and whatnot over that area so that it wouldn't rise back up again. And I mean, it was a whole lot that I had to endure, but the whole time, I remember him saying to me once before, is that the work don't stop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so from my hospital bed, I was making sure that believers were taking care of their charity, and
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
I
Yes,
was able
sir.
to get my weekly reports out on time, and
Praise be to Allah.
I mean, because that's the work, you know. So I'm just grateful, And one of the things too, I just want to mention that one of the things that Brother Saad Aleem said was that we should, at this time, be practicing an attitude of gratitude.
Yes, sir.
And so, I hold on to that also. So every day I find reasons to be grateful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so, yes, that's
Beautiful. My sister says, all praises to Allah. She continue to heal you completely. Sister Juan says, see how Allah preserves you for what He asked for you to do. Allah Akbar. Captain Akil says, Assalamu alaikum salam. Captain Akil. Thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. For Dirickson, what do you do for fun?
Well, of course, now, I mean, I just find fun with being home with my wife, and I have a granddaughter.
Yes, sir.
And I have beautiful children. My mom is still with me.
Praise be to Allah.
Those type moments are just enjoyable moments for me. I do like to go fishing when I can.
Okay.
That's a peaceful setting also. And that's all I eat now. I don't eat anything but fish.
Okay.
Fish and vegetables. So I like doing that in times when I can. And then, of course, just listening to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the lectures. And then now, we have another platform. I mean,
yes,
we
sir.
have the social media platform. So we have those of you that are out there, it's now I just can appreciate what we're doing on the platform.
Praise be to Allah.
So those moments are good for me also. But just family time right now, is most important for me. I can't say enough to everybody, because the minister told us a long time ago that he made that sacrifice so that we could share in the growth and the development of our families, because he's already done that for us. So we got to stop trying to do what he's already done for us and do what he's instructed us to do. So now I'm finding peace and joy in doing what he has instructed me to do.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And thank you for your sacrifice and the sacrifice of your family. Speaking of your grandchild, what advice would you give to future fathers?
Well, most of all, just be there. Take part in their lives, in your children's lives. Don't let a day go by that you leave the home and don't tell your child you love them. Don't put things before your children. Make them always feel that they're the most important thing in your life.
Yes, sir.
I think that would be, adequate, because like the minister said, he made sacrifices, and we've made mistakes as fathers. And so what we want everybody to do now is to not make the mistakes that we made.
Praise be to Allah. And what advice would you give to future husbands?
Oh, man. Okay, that's a good one. What I would say is that you have to keep God or Allah at the center, and try not to go to bed angry, and try not to wake up angry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With the same stuff that you took to bed with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But I'm saying that to say that if that's what's going on in your marriage, then you have to straighten that out. I mean, because not that you try not to go to bed angry yourself, but you got to make sure that she doesn't go to bed angry either. So whatever you have to do to ensure that, then that's what we should be doing. And then also when there are problems, then you both have to go to the prayer rug with those problems. And again, just keep Allah in the middle. And of course, we've gotten all kinds of lectures and literature in regards to marriage. And so we just need to refer back to it, and stay with that. Put that in your car and ride with it daily.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And thank you. My sister Miriam says she always admired you and Janelle's relationship. She's a proud daddy's girl, just like herself. And you all have a beautiful family. Absolutely.
Thank you.
My next question for you, sir, is what do you want your legacy to be, Brother Dirickson?
Well, one of the things that I've had to deal with is just I want those that are coming behind me and those that are actually in front of me and with me now in this department. I just want the department to shine. And I want to be one of those lights or one of those that give off light that shine in this area, in the department, in the financial department and management of the Nation of Islam. The thing is that I've managed debt for as long as I've been in the seat. That's basically what we do a lot of times, is that we're good debt managers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so we have the awesome task of building unity and building trust in our community so that we can develop striving businesses, so that we can develop jobs and things like that for our nation. I mean, we should have the largest human resource department in the world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But we got to get to that. So I just want my part to be, I don't need to be out front. I work better from behind scenes anyway. But I just want to be a part of that. And it to be said that, my father or my son or my brother was a part of all of that. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to help to usher a lot of that forward.
Praise be to Allah. Well, I want to thank you for your great honesty, your transparency, and your strong faith. I'm praying for you 100%. We're praying for you 100% recovery. I didn't know that you went through that. May Allah bless you to continue to be strong, Brother Dirickson, and your family. We love you and your family. And thank you for doing the great work in the Secretary Department, but also just being a good uncle to us growing up and keeping a smile on your face, man, dealing with everything that you've been dealing with. Thank you all for watching the People's Podcast. And 1 second, Brother Akeem says, ASA, Brother Dirickson. This was the first brother who we saw monogram cuffs on his shirt. Absolutely. Yes. Everybody's always talking about your fashion, Brother Dirickson. Before we go, that's a good thing to close out on. Thank you, Akeem, for that. Why is fashion so important to you?
Well, it started when I was young. I mean, as a baby, my mother never liked to see me dirty. She would change my clothes 3 and 4 times a day if necessary. If I got anything dirt on me, any dirt on me, then she wanted to wash me up and change me. But I started in junior high school. And let me tell you how I got to fashion. It was because I lost my arm in elementary school. So when I went my first year of junior high school, you had to have you had to have some elective. You had to have 2 elective courses that you had to take.
Yes, sir.
And so what was offered was home economics, metal work, or wood shop, or typing. The typing teacher said that it would be virtually impossible for her to teach me because I only had one hand and that I had to have both hands to learn the home roll keys. The metal shop worker said that they work with machinery, sharp metals, and you had to have lathes and whatnot. And so, in use of that machinery, he did not want to teach me for fear of me hurting myself in metal shop. And the same went for wood shop. He had, well, actually, it was the same teacher that taught metal, he taught wood also. Okay, so it was the same thing. And so the only class that was left was home economics. So uh, one half of the year she would teach cooking, and the other half of the year she would teach sewing. So I enrolled in her class, and I took cooking one year, and I mean one half, and I took sewing the other. She was the only teacher that would take me. So during the sewing period, I learned how to sew. And so my projects became a little different from the girls' projects that were in that class, because I wasn't trying to make doll baby clothes and stuff like that. So I made vests, things like that for myself. And so one year I made a reversible vest. The first year I just made a regular vest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Second time around, I made a reversible one.
Okay.
Then towards my senior year, senior extravaganza came up. And so whatever you made, you had to model. So I modeled a 3-piece suit that year. Now my ninth grade year, I made my first 3-piece suit. And so then when I went to high school, I went into clothing and textiles. And so that's where I started to learn more about the fabrics and the quality of fabrics and how fabrics hang, how they lay on you, and things like that, and what fabrics you should put together, what fabrics you shouldn't. And then I went from there and I went to work for Woodward & Lothrop as a tailor, an apprentice as a tailor for Woodward & Lothrop. I know most of you all probably don't even know what Woodward & Lothrop is. I'm definitely telling my age on that one.
Yes,
But
sir.
yeah, I went to work for Woodward & Lothrop, and I was a tailor for them for probably 6 years.
Praise be to the Lord.
And I didn't mention it, but now I'm a custom tailor now. And I've started my own custom tailoring business. It's called Entourage Custom Clothing. And I do have Instagram presence. Working on my website and everything as we speak. And I'm still doing the monogram shirts.
Beautiful. Okay, now, Bro Dirickson, now that my brother-in-law King mentioned that. So how can we get one? I want one. I want a Muhammad on my cufflinks.
Just inbox me and well, I'll start looking at it now that I'm mentioning this. But you can inbox me on the Entourage Custom Clothing and Instagram, and I just need to get your measurements and whatnot, and then we'll ship them out to you.
Thank you very much, and that means a lot. So I want to make sure Entourage
Custom Clothing
on Instagram. Let's make sure we support our brother. And man, I wore a suit the other day to one of my friends' wedding. I got so many likes on the pictures. I said, okay, y'all like the suit? Look, okay, I gotta keep the suits going. So I'm definitely gonna support you. Thank you again for coming on the People's Podcast, Bro Dirickson. This has been very informative as well as inspirational. Thank you all for watching the People's Podcast. Thank you, Brother DeVisi says very informative and very delightful. Thank you. Brother Lando says Woodles. I don't know what that means. But all right. But thank you very much, sir. And assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you.
Yes, sir.